Hello everyone, GM. Welcome back to another episode of Between Two Layers. I'm Carly Reilly, and I am here, as always, with the one and only Robbie Ferguson. Robbie, how you doing in this, do I dare call it a bull market?
I wouldn't call it that yet. Potentially a bull trap, but definitely great tailwinds over the last couple of weeks. I've just spent the last couple of weeks in the US and meeting a lot of people over there. I think the general sentiment is very optimistic right now. Not necessarily for the short term, but for confidence bolstering in what this will mature into over the next year. So happy to...
I'm bitter we didn't get to hang out while you were in the US.
Yeah, I was literally there for 72 hours. So it's a very short window.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. Excuses. What is at the heart of this, we won't call it a bull market, but this little mini run we're having here? I feel like there's a few factors that are contributing to this.
Yeah, I mean, first off, you have the very interesting conversation that Larry had around spot ETFs and whether or not you had this essentially fake news of them being approved. I think there's a very strong possibility that was a truthful reporting that then he had to do some stakeholder management on. And I think the market is generally feeling very confident that spot ETFs are going to be approved sometime soon. Which I would say
and just having Larry out there as almost like he's become this crypto advocate. Like he's like a Bitcoin advocate now on the press circuit. Really couldn't think somebody better when it comes to TradFi.
Live TV in 3 hours after it shows this is a top priority for him. He's actively thinking about it, managing it. So it's not just some priority number 6 for him. So that would say like narrative number 1. I would say there's a bunch of other factors coming in as well. So one technical one is there's been an ETH whale writing covered calls pretty much every couple of weeks for the last 6 months, writing about 500,000. So that basically means they're giving people the option that if ETH goes above a certain price that they strike it at, they can purchase it off them.
They'll buy it.
Yeah. And they actually, the theory goes, only had 50% collateral. So it wasn't fully covered. They had half exposure if it ever got cold. And this wasn't the problem for the last 6 months. It's been basically flat. Suddenly you have a 25% run in a week and they have to start buying up a ton of ETH to cover themselves and make sure they're not, essentially have naked exposure. So that was one kind of technical piece that I think was driving a lot of ETH gains. You have federal election odds. I mean, I'm not going to get into politics, but clearly there's, I think the Republican Party is going to be more favorable to crypto apart from a couple of Democratic candidates. And you have some changes in the polls there with Trump rising in the polls, whatever your politics and whatever other impact that has a clear impact on Web3. And then, I mean, you have crypto-friendly regulators starting conversations on being the next SEC chairs. Plenty of rumors abounding there. Obviously, if Hester Pierce get to that position, we're sitting very friendly from that perspective from next year. You have China printing $1 trillion in yuan as economic stimulus. You have, I think, institutional conversations also. The US macro is getting so bad. I mean, you basically have 170 really regional banks in a zombie state right now that people are actually looking to de-dollarize. And they're probably increasing their allocations on the institutional side. I mean, it's not going to be much. Let's say they have 1% allocated to non-dollar assets or Web3 assets. Maybe they're looking at bumping that to 2 or 3%. But given the size of this stuff, it's extremely instrumental. So normally you see a high correlation between US macro and crypto prices. This might be the first time we see that trend be bucked as people look to actually fly to non-dollar denominated assets in a flight to safety. All of that is highly speculative. Clearly the number one clarity is spot ETFs. And the interesting thing is people now know how the market will price the news that spot ETFs are coming, right? Or at a minimum, how the market is going to price that news because of the was it Coin... I think
Coin Telegraph?
Yeah, or CoinDesk, I think, leaked it. Not leaked, incorrectly reported. So very, very interesting. People's vibes were definitely good over the last 2 weeks. I'm not calling it a bull run. I'm not saying people buy. I think we've still got, another protracted period of sideways market, but I'm feeling pretty bullish on, like, let's say, second half of next year.
Yeah, it's a good moment, we'll call it, in crypto and in NFTs, I'd say across the board. Like there's some life that feels like it's come back into this market, which is exciting. Yeah. And we have a good show for you in this market where we have some life being breathed back in. As always, Robbie and I are going to start at the top here talking about some other news, really also diving into some updates on the Immutable side. There's so much going on within the company that I think there's some exciting updates there. A big announcement that I know there's more to come out about it, but we'll talk about that. We've got our community spotlight afterwards where we hear from you, the Immutable community. Robbie answers your questions. Then we have our game demo today. I am talking to the team from WAGMI Games. We're going to get into everything they're building over there. And of course, we'll close with a Robbie final thoughts. So we got a great show for you today. But before we dive into today's news, please do subscribe, comment, like, make sure you don't miss a single episode of Between Two Layers and all the other good content that Immutable has coming out. All right, news of the day. The big announcement that caught my eye was an Immutable Ubisoft partnership. What can we say about this, Robbie?
We can't say that much right now, but we will be able to very shortly. But essentially, this is Immutable and Ubisoft partnering on a project that is around Web3 gaming, and we will be able to share further updates very soon, but we're really, really excited to be working with the Ubisoft team very closely on this project. So we're really thrilled about this, and please stay tuned for more news.
And keep listening to this podcast, because you can be sure we will be talking about it as soon as we can say more, as soon as you can say more. Also in the world of Immutable, you have some stats to share, I believe, around the Guild of Guardians Friends and Family round that's been going on. We had talked to the team I think a while back on this show, and things were trending very well, but I think we're in a different place now to really report on stuff. So would love to get that update from you. Yeah,
so we can now officially share the stats. They've basically blown me away. So I'll set some context for everyone, which is, a good day one retention, which means if you play once, if you ever come back, is typically a day one of 40%. Then you have metrics for day 2, day 7, day 30, day 90. If you play before then, are you going to come back on the 90th day or after? And world-class day 1 is probably around 40%. And we're getting a day 1 currently with a friends and family cohort, which is obviously small. So you're obviously getting better results than you'll get in the real world. But still, we got a day 1 of 66% actually. But a day 7 of 44%. So what people are striving to get for day 1, we're getting a day 7. And this is with 500 playtesters. So it's not a small cohort. It's, a bunch of people from our community, from our sort of, ecosystem who's been playing, and a bunch of people internally at Immutable. I think we had a board meeting where some of the board members are playing. So I'm really thrilled by the results here. I think this is right up there with the sort of handful of games that I think has a very high chance of becoming a hit, and it's coming out very early next year. So I'm really thrilled with the work that Justin and Clay and the Immutable team has been doing on this. Our dev studio based out of China has been doing incredible work. They're really, really efficient. Like, they're turning around iterations based on feedback in 24 hours. So I'm just excited for where this can go. And I think my favorite thing is we get to just be a pure experimenter here with Web3 economics. We've entirely focused this on giving value to players and focusing on maximizing GMV and volume for the maximum incentive alignment. And I think that's cool because we get the opportunity to really explore an economy design that works best for Web3. And then if that succeeds, we can roll that out to everyone else. So we're kind of, taking this step for them. So very excited about GOG.
Yeah, that's fantastic. For folks who do want to know more, I highly recommend the interview we did with Clay. He spoke a lot about the partners y'all have been working with and just how wonderful they've been and some of what's coming next for the game. So, all right, more good Immutable news. We've been talking so much about Passport on this show this season. And I know that Aqua and Token Trove, those marketplaces, are now live with Passport on Immutable, which brings the total games and marketplaces that can now be accessed through through Passport to, I don't know what I have here, but 6 or 7, it looks like. What does this mean to you, Robbie, when it comes to the Immutable ecosystem as a whole and where you're going?
Yeah, well, the vast majority of games signed up to Immutable today, I think more than 90%, close to 100%, are committing to using Passport. And really for us, this is how do we break down the massive friction Web2 users have when we ask them to onboard into Web3. So these marketplaces integrating is the first step in that. We're really excited to see the conversion rates and be tracking these. I know when we installed it on Guild of Guardians, I think it more than tripled conversion rates relative to like a standard MetaMask wallet that we were using. So this is just more data for us to start to optimize. And basically this will be rolled out through the entire ecosystem with ZKVM as well.
I have fond memories of Token Trove in particular because in, I don't know if I guess probably the height of the bull when ETH gas was really bad. I started trading Gary V's book game tokens. I had a bunch of book game tokens that I was trading on Token Trove. And that was my first experience because you didn't have the gas fees. It was one of these, like, I just like went into a blackout state and just like started like buying and selling, you know, in a way that I never really had been or felt free to do on Ethereum mainnet. And I was like, oh, this is dangerous. Like, this is amazing and also dangerous. There's no gas fee.
It's a magic experience, I think, the first gas-free transactions. And of course, we're going to be able to roll these out for games on ZKVM as well through gas abstraction, which I'm really excited about because with X, it's easy. It's an app-specific roll-up. There's no, it's very easy for us to make essentially gas-free for end customers. We've had to build a lot of tech to do this on an open blockchain, but we're essentially going to be able to have the games pay for gas on behalf of users so they can make that choice to say, hey, we don't want users to have that end friction.
Awesome. Well, speaking also of another game that we have already interviewed on this podcast, Cross the Ages, an amazing mobile game team out of France. They just sold out, I believe, 18,000 packs of a pre-sale, basically, of 18,000 packs for something like 700,000 NFTs. Talk a little bit about how you're feeling about Cross the Ages.
Yeah, I'm really excited about these guys. I mean, they've had the third week running as the #1 strategy game in the France App Store. I think that's 12 weeks this year that they've had that spot. They've had assets selling for 6 figures, multiple of them. They've had this completely sold out Season 2 pack sale. This is all in a completely bear market. So I'm really excited about this team. They're really focused on just delivering a high quality TCG. TCG is by far the most popular genre, by the way. Fun fact on Immutable, I think, because people, have a strong model of how to build an economy around it. And also just it makes so much just mimetic fit with Web3. Like, hey, you can own these cards. You have like Pokemon, you have Yu-Gi-Oh! So I'm really excited by CTA's progress. I think they're definitely one of our strongest games on the platform, and highly encourage everyone to download the game and try it out.
Yeah, and check out our interview with the Cross the Ages team here on Between Two Layers. That was another one that I really enjoyed. You can tell that team is just super sharp, super on it, know what they're trying to build, know who they're trying to build it for. We have some other exciting non-Immutable news, some headlines coming out. But before we fully shift gears, I think I saw a tweet from you, Robbie, saying you guys hit a new milestone. You set a new record internally within Immutable when it came to most games signed up in a day, or partners. Give me that stat.
Yeah, so we had, this is last week, we have an internal wins channel in Slack where BEs post anytime they win a gaming deal and everyone celebrates. It's like our digital version of a deal battle. And one day we had 9 games, which is the most we've ever done in a single day. And I think this is really interesting for a couple of reasons. One is, I often hear from people like, oh, there's fewer games building in Web3. And well, actually, we're not seeing this in our numbers. And I think with the increase in market share we have as well, it's just we're able to soak up a lot more of this long tail. But the second is just it's been, again, one of our best cycles where really I think building up this muscle of winning the top most important games in the world, but also helping to usher in these bets that are a slightly longer tail. And, there's going to be successful ones out of that pile that we can't even predict. So I was really thrilled for this. And it was, a massive victory internally. Congratulations. Yeah, I hope the team's feeling good about it. In non-Immutable specific news, though I do believe this next team I want to talk about with you does build on Immutable, the classic, I think, like social web game Habbo, which started integrating NFTs in 2021, just announced that they're making a shift from calling their Habbo NFTs to calling them Habbo Collectibles. So really just a name change. Frankly exciting to me because it's like they're not backing out of Web3 by any means, but they're cognizant of the broader impression of NFTs. What are your thoughts on this? I think it's a great idea. I think there'll be tons of games doing this. Again, it's a branding problem associated with NFTs from a very minority of people, a vocal minority. But if you gave people a database-based marketplace and you said, hey, we're proving cryptographically that you're going to be able to trade these assets and have limits on how many can exist, and it's going to be tradable for real value, no one would bat an eye. They'd be like, this is really cool. This is a great experiment. Just because I think we have this word NFT that has been associated with now so many things, including, many grifts and many projects. I think it's been associated with being bad for the environment, which of course is pretty much completely irrelevant in an Ethereum proof of stake world, and with the carbon consciousness most companies in the space today have. I think it's a great move to just be focusing on value to players and not having them bulk at some word at first light. So I think we'll have a ton of games doing this. If you go to godsonchain.com, we don't mention the word NFTs. We're comfortable with people mentioning it too. It's very fine. But ultimately, this is a branding question to see how can you maximize your appeal.
Yep, absolutely. Next headline I want to talk about, we have Neon Machine raises $20 million to make shrapnel extraction shooter. This round was led, I believe, by Polychain. Yeah, Polychain Capital led the round, and you had some other investors in there as well. We've been talking about this. I mean, the raising environment. What did this say to you about what we've been talking about?
Yeah, I mean, look, Polychain, obviously one of the top VCs in the space. Shrapnel, exceptional game being built. We're just really excited to see, like, top games are getting funded. You know, is basically what we see. In fact, I had an investor say to me yesterday that they were in San Francisco talking to someone, and the market for VC for Web3 games is oversaturated. As in, it is too easy to, there's too much money kind of seeking companies. It's a good problem to have. I'm not sure if that's necessarily true, but we are seeing, if you're a top team, you're building a good game, you can get funding. The valuations have pulled off from the last market. You're no longer having,
which is probably healthy.
Yeah, so you're no longer having top teams go automatically like $400 million token now, which is what I think some of the top teams were getting last time. You're now sort of anything sub 30, we see go quite quickly if you're a good quality team. If you're bigger, you've got some more pedigree from some previous successes, you can probably do more val than that. I think this is healthy. Games don't have to raise a ton. They have to raise enough to get the game built and shipped, and then either it's profitable or it's not. So you very quickly after that point typically don't need to raise a ton more in order to successfully grow the game. It's not the same as sort of software companies. So great to see, and I think just another indicator or proof point of people often ask that like the biggest misconception in the space right now is with all this funding, where are the games? And the simple reality is up until 2 months ago, the infrastructure was not good enough to even support a game attaining a mainstream audience. 2, the lag time to build these games is such that 95% of the games that have been invested, in fact, probably more like 98%, are not live. We know 40 to 50% of these are going live over the next year, essentially in 2024. And the chances for there to be hits is just extremely high across that portfolio. With $15 billion invested, you know, for context, Warzone 2 with 100 million monthly active players was 200 mil. So we have, you know, 5 times, 75 bets, which is distributed not exactly like that, but there are going to be hits. And just one, like we saw with Axie, like we saw with Steppen, is going to basically catalyze an entirely new wave of people copying that economic model of people fostering investments and trying to recreate and clone. Except this time, based on what we know people are building, it's going to be a much more sustainable economy, and they're going to be acquiring millions of real Web2 customers rather than just sort of, you know, 100,000 or 200,000 fans in Web3, which we have no opposition to. I think that's one of the coolest things of Web3 is you can build a sustainable economic model with a much smaller amount of people. You have this idea of, you know, 10,000 true fans or 1,000 true fans. But ultimately, if we want to change gaming and change the way assets are held, we've got to take this to the 3.1 billion players out there.
And we've been talking about this, and we've also obviously spoken quite a bit about the Asian market. You spent a lot of time out there. I know your team has spent a lot of time out there. Yeah. There was a quote that caught my attention that I thought was great by, I think, the SVP of corporate development at Bandai Namco, which is a Japanese game publisher behind big titles, Elden Ring, Dark Souls, others, Pac-Man, it says here. I actually didn't realize that. In any case, he said that blockchain will be standard for gaming in Asia, and really spoke specifically about the fact that there's not the same stigma attached to Web3 and NFTs in Asia that there is here in the United States.
I think you said it better than I could.
I just quoted him, but
yeah, look, as in, if people
I summarized him well.
If people want to be skeptical, that's fine. But then I'm like, well, there's the biggest gaming companies in the world who have led every previous significant shift in the way games are distributed. And right now, everyone at these companies is saying, this thing is real. We're investing, we're building, and there you have, this is going to be the standard. And I couldn't agree more. I think it's not going to be a vertical. It's not going to be you're playing a Web3 game. It will just be the way that asset ownership is done. And I'm very excited because for the first time, it's a shift that is fundamentally better for players. Arguably, even free-to-play, increased accessibility, but, is a monetization model that has pros and cons. This is the first time we're really reinventing the relationship between consumers and publishers to be much more incentive aligned.
And Asia has led so many of the previous, has led the charge in so many previous iterations of the change in gaming. Yeah. Very exciting. Well, amazing. Lots of good headlines today. Lots of good news coming out of Immutable. Very exciting. And now it's time to hear directly from the Immutable community in our Community Spotlight section. All right, Robbie, we have a question here from AndreLuke.eth. Do you think all games will eventually transition to Web3? And if so, why? Not all of them have a use case.
Yeah, I think not 100%. First off, I'd carve out single-player games. If there's no multiplayer, there's no reason for asset ownership or tradability to be inside the game. And I'd say it probably will look similar to the topology of free-to-play versus purchase games today. People will always want to run their games a certain type of way, but the vast majority of games today are built with free-to-play monetization, with accessibility to all, and then monetization through in-game transactions. I think this is going to be very similar to the way that Web3 propagates. I think it's going to be a horizontal. So if you are purchasing assets inside of a game, the expectation will become over time that you own those assets. And that will just become the standard. So I agree, not all games have a use case, but I think as soon as you're basically purchasing something in a context where other people are also purchasing that thing and playing that game or experience, you essentially have a use case for creating Web3. And I think there's going to be a big spectrum. Everything from people who just create fundable tokens, which maybe get some portion of the value of the game, and they're using that for user acquisition, a la WorldCoin, or we say with Big Time, or they're doing more of the entire asset economy being tokenized, or even indeed fully on-chain gaming. But my thesis is the vast majority of this stuff is going to transition. Just because, if this starts to become material successes, the difference between building a successful Web3 game and a successful Web2 game, I think is going to get quite stark. Because let's take a look, even Counter-Strike Go, we have $12 billion traded every year of CSGO assets. And imagine you could take those assets, you could actually open up the economy. You're probably looking at more like $50 to $100 billion traded. Now, Valve is making close to $2 billion a year off those trades. They take 15%. The Web3 version of that can make closer to 20 billion. That's ignoring the fungible token volume on top of that. Axie did $4.5 billion in NFT sales. Their token did multiples and multiples on top of that. So we're creating economies where the winners, the size of the prize is going to be shared, and it's going to be much larger. That's why I kind of am pretty bullish on how well this will propagate. And then the second thing I think is, as soon as consumers' expectations start to shift, it's very hard to revert them. You can't really give people a much better version of something and then take it away. If that's the standard, that's the expectation, that is what is going to be demanded by gamers, who are a very demanding and a very fickle audience. And I think right now that is a bit of a difficulty for us to work around with branding, but it's at some point going to become in our favor, because it's going to be these people saying, well, hey, why can't I own and sell my stuff? Why did I get right on this particular thing? So it's a double-edged sword, and it's going to become very useful as soon as we can prove out the benefit of this model to them.
That's a great point. The same stubbornness and hard-headedness and opinionatedness that maybe is working against Web3 right now.
They'll soon be maxis.
It will be what's working against the companies that refuse to integrate Web3 into their games. Yeah. Very interesting. Andre, thank you for the thoughtful question. If you have questions you want to get answered on this show, please do leave a comment in the video below. The team checks those out, and we'll definitely include as many as we can in future episodes. All right, now I am going to go have a chat with Scott and Ian over at WAGMI Games, building a very cool game on Immutable, and excited for you to hear more about that. All right, we are back. I am here with Scott Herman, the VP of Strategic Partnerships, and Ian Bentley, co-founder and head honcho. No, I didn't say that well. Co-founder and CEO.
El Jefe.
El Jefe. El Jefe. I'm offending probably entire countries of people at this moment. But
not at
all. Of WAGMI Games, the studio behind WAGMI Defense. Very excited to dive into this game, the latest NFT mint, everything with y'all. But let's just start basic. Give me your backgrounds. Tell me about what you were up to and how you've ended up here.
Yeah, so background, actually, I'm part of the emerging technology of Web 2. Right out of college, I was in a rock band, and during that time, I wanted to create flyers and things like that for the band. At that time, one of my buddies pirated a computer for me with Photoshop on it, and at the same time, he's like, you need a domain name, and I'm like, what's that? So I literally grew up with Web 2 as far as designing websites and really helping pioneer, what we know as websites and, the internet. And then at the same time, what had happened a few months or a few years back was when NFTs started popping, I started to see commerce, the utility having to do with crypto. And to me, that was when I was like, all right, I didn't really understand what Bitcoin was going to do other than a store of value. Didn't really understand what a lot of the different protocols were going to do. But once the NFTs started popping and commerce started happening, that's where I started doing a little bit of research. Started listening to guys like Elio Trades and Alec Becker, and those are the ones that made the most sense, having to do with digital collectibles and gaming, and understanding that is essentially the future for games. And fast forward a couple of years later, I met the co-founders of WAGMI through another project, just a random project, and we didn't even know who we were. We weren't even doxed to each other when we started this project. Obviously, we doxed to each other immediately, but it was great meeting a guy by the name of Luis Trujillo, who's our chief gaming officer. He had a vision of not only being able to focus on a game, but he also was like, mobile's where it's at. So many people love mobile. Nobody's focused on mobile at all. And he actually had a universe in his head that he didn't even know he had in his head, that we were able to extract from him as we went through a creative process. And so, yeah, that's pretty much my background, how I got to this point. And, now fast forward 2 years later, we're on the precipice of one of the very few mobile games out there in Web3 that's about to go to a global launch. So we're really excited to be here. And of course, being able to be a partner with Immutable and the gasless transactions and all the things that Immutable is able to give us as far as the technology is concerned, it makes sense as far as mass adoption, which is where we're going for. And I'm sure we'll talk about that in a little bit.
It's interesting to hear that the mobile insight almost came first. I was going to ask you about that a little later, and like really seeing that there was green space there, or blue space, blue ocean, whatever the phrase is, that there was an opportunity in mobile first in Web3, which I agree with, and I think it's interesting. Scott, would love to hear, how'd you end up at WAGMI?
Yeah. Well, so it's interesting that you say, how you bring up the mobile, right? Because that's what really got my attention when I first met the WAGMI team, was the fact that they were building on mobile, because I'm a big mobile gamer myself. But before I get too far ahead of myself, my background is, it's a little all over the place. I have a lot of interest growing up as a kid, but my two main passions were always fitness and gaming. I was very introverted as a child, believe it or not, Ian. Very introverted. I had friends, but I kept to myself, and I'd rather spend 8 to 10 hours a day grinding on my Nintendo 64 versus, doing stuff outside. It just was the way I was growing up. But as I got older and I started to come out of my shell a little bit, fitness kind of became the thing that paid the bills. I started working in a gym when I was 14 for a free membership. Then I started running the front desk, became a personal trainer, became general manager. And then I was running and building clubs all throughout the East Coast. And then when I hit 23, I got on a TV show called The Real World on MTV. So it's a reality TV show where they take 8 people, they put you in a house, and they see what happens. And then they put it on TV for everybody to watch. Our season was very unique in that it was the first season where they didn't give us team jobs to do. In fact, they picked people who were pursuing things in New York City, like modeling, acting, show hosting, dancing, writing, directing. And so at the time, I was actually fitness modeling. I was the first person to get 3 pull-out posters in 1 year from Men's Health magazine, which is a pretty cool accomplishment for me. In fact, if you still buy their big book of exercises, you'll see like 22-year-old me demonstrating all the chest exercises and the ab exercises. So I was starting to kind of be up and coming in that space. And after going on The Real World and then living in the city for about a year, that exposed me to television. It exposed me to being on camera. I mean, this is when Twitter just came out. This is 2009. So YouTube was just starting to kind of get popular, and I just saw an opportunity to teach fitness to the world. And so I decided to move out of New York back to my gym that I was a general manager at. And then I would literally create content. I would work all day, close the doors at 10 p.m., and then film videos till 1 or 2 in the morning with a couple of my clients, Cliff and Tom. And back then, there was no algorithm. So I'd upload like 7 to 10 videos every week on a Saturday, right? And they'd all get great views. And then I was doing it more or less just to educate people. I didn't know you could make money doing it back then. But then it turned into this huge business. I grew it to over 3 million subscribers. I was the head trainer for Lionsgate. They had their own channel called BFit. I did a lot of their movie integrations like Expendables, Central Intelligence, Day After Tomorrow. I was in that movie Heist. That was really cool with Dave Bautista and Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Mark Paul Gosselaar. Very interesting. We can talk more about that later. But, you know, I kind of just immersed myself in this environment. All the while, I still had my passion for gaming. That never stopped. Huge collector, huge into anime, huge into comics, huge into pretty much anything I can get my hands on and obsess over. And what got me into crypto, I hate to say it out loud, was meme coins. I had a friend who was like,
shitcoin day trading, we got it.
Literally, what, 2021, my friend, you know, we're eating at this place called Hawkers, and he's like, you got to buy this token, Shiba Inu. And I was like, why? He's, I don't know. My rich friends told me to do it, so I'm telling you.
Oh, my gosh.
And I was like, okay. And this was before Shiba Swap, right? So I put some money in, and it pumped, and I made good money, and that obviously caught my interest. And I spent about a year kind of just like dabbling in, you know, projects because it was the bull market and everything was kind of popping off. And so I was trying to find, like, where is the best opportunity? And I started a YouTube channel called Scott Herman Crypto because as a YouTuber, that's how I educate myself. I do research and then make videos on it. And one of my community members was like, hey, you got to check out WAGMI. And so I had a call with Ian and Lewis and Khaled and Chris. And after that first call, I spoke to my business partner, who's also now a co-founder. And I said, this is probably the first team that has their shit together that we've ever talked to in the last year in crypto. Because I come from a background where I know how to build and scale a business. I know how to do marketing. Ian, that's basically his background too, to the 10th power of what I've done. And everybody else in the team, Khaled's our blockchain specialist. Lewis is the creative genius behind all of the story and the lore and the characters and the game itself. Chris, amazing with marketing. He's a big reason why we got whitelisted on our Google AdSense account right away. And what I recognized what was missing in Web3 was there was a lot of great ideas, but not a lot of teams behind those ideas that knew how to build and scale. And then the fact that they were doing mobile really caught my attention because I have another gaming YouTube channel that I built up over 6 or 7 years playing mobile games. And one of the things that always bothered me was that I couldn't just give away extra characters or items while live streaming with my community. Because in the games that I play, a lot of the times I'd get duplicates of all the best items. And then community members would be like, oh man, I've been playing for 2 years and I still don't have this character. And then I'm just sitting there with like 4 copies, right? Only need 1, but I got 4. And I couldn't give it away if I wanted to. And so when I met WAGMI and the rest of the team and I saw what they were doing and I saw that it was mobile, from the creator side, it just clicked. And I saw this opportunity that I just couldn't miss out on.
Awesome. Well, we're coming back to the mobile gaming thing. I know we've talked about the mobile gaming thing here a little bit. I would love to know a little bit more about, tell people what the game is, WAGMI Defense. How do you play it? And I want to get into the lore a little bit here. Ian, why don't I throw it to you for that?
Oh, well, Scott can tell you all about the game. I can tell you about the lore, but Scott, why don't you just give a 10,000-foot overview about the game, the playability, and things like that?
For people who aren't too familiar with mobile games, I would say play style is similar to Clash Royale. But we're as much like Clash Royale as Fortnite is like Call of Duty, okay? But gameplay is you have 3 towers, your opponent has 3 towers, and then you have to build a team of either alien characters or human characters. Each character has a variety of attacks. Some have stronger attacks, some have stronger defense, some move fast, some move slow, some do aerial, right? So the goal is to obviously build a team around the strategy of how you like to play. And then you have an energy bar that's filling up as the game progresses. And that energy bar corresponds to a number on the character's card. So for example, if you want to deploy a WAGMI troop, you need 3 energy. Once energy gets to 3, you can drag and drop the troop on the map, and then the troop does its thing. So it's an auto battler, but there's like a lot of strategy involved because you have to time when and where you're placing your troops to not only get across the bridge, but destroy your opponent's characters in order to blow up their towers. If you blow up one of the side towers, that part of the map opens up, but if you blow up the middle tower, that's how you automatically win.
Oh, okay. So we're starting to get into some of the strategy here with this, and I want to find out, I know you guys have said you're leading with lore, so tie it together for us, Ian. Like, where does the lore come in? And I believe there was a comic book that kicked some of this off, so give us that backstory.
Yeah, I think that the main differentiation of a lot of the studios that are building in Web3 and what we're trying to do is leading with a universe, is creating its own unique universe. And WAGMI is an acronym. We're all going to make it. We consider we're all going to make it against aliens. That's WAGMI Defense. The year's 3022. It's 1,000 years from now. The aliens come down. They try to mine the core element of the Earth called Nephi, nickel iron, and that essentially, powers all of their suits and their weapons, and that is a galactic war that takes place, right? So it's this entire universe, aliens versus humans, and one of the other acronyms that's very important for us is why. Why would digital collectibles or NFTs be popular in a game? Now, you have your Web3 people that are your speculators. They're only here to see, how can I make money? What's the floor price? What am I going to do as far as being able to get something cheaper and sell it, vice versa, and what have you? The way we look at it is there needs to be the reason why Web2 people, regular people, gamers can come into a game and actually attach themselves emotionally to the characters within the game, therefore causing that emotional, bond with specific aliens, specific humans, maybe both. But then it's the collectability within the game that actually makes the why make sense in terms of why people want to collect NFTs, why they want to continue to play the game. And it's not just about the speculation. It's all about the emotional tie. And if you look at some of the biggest franchises in the world, your Marvels, your Pokemons, people love the characters. They like the story. And that's the reason why they collect. The fact that you can potentially make money on the back end, great. That's awesome. That's going to be for a small subset of people. The majority of people are going to do it for entertainment. But we feel that by leading with the lore, by having this amazing, very unique universe, it's allowing us to specify the why people are going to get infatuated with the NFTs, the digital collectibles, the trading on the secondary market, and then be able to actually buy more and more characters within the game that, what Scott says, you can deploy directly onto the map and have them battle within a 3-minute game loop on mobile.
So you're getting at something important here. You're getting at, in some ways, why NFTs, right? That's what you're talking about here, the collectible, the connection you can feel with it, the ownership element. And so you're starting to touch out one of the questions I wanted to get at with y'all, which is, how do you keep it from just being, pay to win? How are you structuring these NFTs within the game? It sounds like there's obviously the collectability component of this, but how do you make sure that this isn't something where it's not fun because it's whoever has the most money is going to come in first?
Yeah, and I think that's a problem that we saw come out a lot with games that we're building, especially during the bull market, right? It was a matter of, if you were in the beta, you only got access to these cards, and then when the game went publicly launched, it was like, oh, well, if you don't have those 3 cards, you're not most likely not going to win, or when you battle someone who has those cards, you're automatically going to lose, right? It doesn't make any sense. Like, to a gamer, it's just like, why would you even want to play a game like that if you're going to be outpaced as soon as you start? Now, with us, what we've done is we've created a level playing field for anybody who wants to play WAGMI Defense. Now, we also have collectability, which we've touched upon a little bit in some previous chatter here, right? So our game is free to play, Carly. Anybody who logs in, creates an account, goes through the tutorial, all takes like maybe a minute or 2 to go through it all. And then at the end, you're going to choose, do you want your starter deck to be aliens or humans? So let's say you picked aliens. So you're going to have your alien team. You're going to start battling through the campaign. You're going to start doing the PvE or maybe even the PvP as well. And as you're battling, you're actually winning new characters, right? You'll get a war chest that you can open and new characters come out. Those are all NFTs. And of course, it's on Immutable, right? So it's all just going in their wallet on their L2. Most people won't even know it's a quote-unquote Web3
abstracting
game.
Away the hard tech bullshit.
Yes. Yes, you're literally just playing a game, collecting characters like you would any other game that you play. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to have seasons. And seasons are going to last about probably 3 months. And during that season, you have an opportunity to get a battle pass and all these other fun things. This is nothing new. This already exists in pretty much every single mobile game that you have on your phone right now. Now, in our game, you can actually create more rare variants of characters. So as you're opening war chests, sometimes you might get a rare or an epic or a legendary, but for the most part, you're going to get the common variants of the character. Once you have 5 commons of the same character, inside the game, there's a burning mechanism where you can actually burn those 5 commons to create a rare. Then once you collect 5 rares, you can make an epic, and then once you collect 5 epics, you can make a legendary. But what's changing between common and legendary? Well, of course, the artwork of the NFT changes, right? Before the match starts, I can see what cards you have, and you can see what cards I have. So it's almost like an intimidation flex, where if I have all gold legendaries, you're probably going to be like, oh shit, this guy's going to whoop my ass. He plays a lot. Right? Or, or maybe I just bought them all on the secondary market, right? You don't know. But in terms of like, can you still beat me with a deck of commons? And the answer is yes. Now, aside from a visual change of the NFT, the character itself will get a tiny, tiny, tiny boost in power from common to legendary, but not enough to give you like this massive edge where you can't lose. Like literally the common variant to the legendary variant is like a 5% difference in overall power. So for example, if your attack power was 1500 on a common, on legendary it's 1550. So it's just enough to make you want to grind and get your cards to those higher variants. Now, once season 1 is over, and we move to season 2, we're going to have the season 2 variants of the cards. Still same exact characters, except that you can't take season 1 cards and season 2s and combine them to get the next variant. So that's where we're trying to be like, hey, the season's 3 months long, so you better grind. You can play for free and grind and open war chests and PvP battle to level your cards up to get them as close to legendary as you can.
That's where we feel the excitement of the NFTs on both the Web3 as well as the excitement from anybody else to come in that says, if I'm literally combining cards to make a better variant, what do I need to do? I need to potentially go into the secondary market at that point if I want to combine any of my season 1s, right? And therefore, what's going to wind up happening is, let's say that there was let's say there was one character that wasn't very popular in season 1. And that character winds up being one of the most valuable ones in season 1 because there's not that many available in order to merge, to continuously evolve. So I think it's going to be really exciting to see what the human behavior is, the gaming behavior is, based off of who they think is going to be the most popular, but who might be the most valuable, based on
rarity. Scarcity models.
Scarcity model, exactly. So we're combining a lot of different elements that have worked in Web 2 games, and then being able to then utilize the NFT technology to be able to have the ability to openly, freely trade, with your friends or go on the secondary market, but without the full-blown speculation, the gating of the NFTs, all the things that people don't understand as far as technology is concerned. We're throwing that out, and we've built everything on the back end where you pick up the game, you can burn your cards. Yeah, you didn't understand that, on a Mutascan, you can literally see those cards disappear and then form another card. If you're techie, if you're NFT-wise, you can go check that out. But we're just utilizing the technology on the back end, so it's as simple and frictionless as possible for the consumer.
I love it. Yes, you're getting at abstracting away the tech. That's obviously is part of a goal to get more of the mainstream into Web3, or I should say, like, get the mainstream into this game, and Web3 is just a part of it. Is that almost maybe a better rephrase of what y'all are trying to do?
Yeah.
Let's talk broadly about your strategy. I know this is something you've talked about before, about trying to appeal to people who may even be outside of Web3 from a marketing perspective, from a biz dev perspective. Like, how do y'all approach that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's been one of the main things.
Especially in this
market. That's one of the things we've always been focused on from the beginning, and the fact that we have Lewis is creating the universe. We have companies like GadgetBot that are helping, getting a character from point A to point B as far as AAA quality. We have people on Marvel that are coming on to help us write stories. We're actually creating an anime treatment as well. So it's being able to utilize all of the different things within the universe to create a experience that is very similar to any other game or franchise that's out there. We don't feel leading with technology is going to be beneficial at all. If anything, it's going to be malice because people don't either know what NFTs are or think NFTs are right-click, JPEG, screenshot, monkeys, bunnies, apes. Like it's kind of our industry is kind of a joke if you look at it from the outside in. So, the way we're looking at it is, utilizing all of the lore that we discussed, the characters, and creating user acquisition funnels that would be very similar to anything else that you would see with any other game in the world. But that being said, you don't have to have crypto and to own anything within the game. What we've done is we've leveraged the technology on the back end where all you have to do is double click your phone and say, okay, I accept this on Google Play or I accept this on iOS device. And that purchase is done with regular money, with fiat, whatever country you're in. That currency is, it's already ready to go in all the different app stores. So you don't have to have crypto. And then the way we look at it is, should you want to trade? Should you want to say, oh, well, I just leveled up this card and now this level 10 General Stamima is trading for $25 or $30 and it really only cost me a couple dollars within the game. How do I do that? We'll teach you how to do that. It makes it really simple. And the way we look at it is by having the technology on Immutable. We're going to be integrating Passport into the game. We're one of the very first games in the world that we know of mobile-wise that will be integrating Passport. And making it so that it is as seamless as possible for somebody to just go right into the marketplace and list something for sale. Now, in the event that they want to buy something, we'll teach them how to buy a little bit of ETH or USDC or what have you. And the way we look at it is, like eBay. You need a PayPal account if you want to trade on eBay. If you didn't have a PayPal account before, there's a link. You create a PayPal account. You have to connect your bank account, and then now you can fund your PayPal account and go buy something on eBay. We look at it exactly the same way that crypto or Ethereum is just another kind of currency, and utilizing Passport is just like another account or a wallet like you'd have in PayPal. So, just trying to make it so that the layman's understand and equate it to something that is current within the market. And then therefore it creates a little bit less of a barrier when you are teaching somebody how to actually trade in, Web3 and in crypto. So
that's a good analogy, the PayPal analogy. So taking it now to the other side, this is how you make it so the crypto isn't first and foremost. But I think you all also have a token. And I'd love to understand how that's integrated into the broader gameplay and the ecosystem here.
Yeah, so we have our token is going to be a full utility token. And that's the only way you can move forward with the game. Like, it has to make sense. And it's not uncommon to already see a token in traditional gaming. If you play COD, you're buying token with a credit card. You're buying COD points. If you're playing Fortnite, you're buying V-Bucks. So having a token in-game isn't something that's uncommon. Now, utility to that token, what's so great is that's something you can continuously add on as the game develops more and more. So some of the utility right now for the token, obviously we have governance. That's one of the things that's talked about a lot. But governance more along the lines of like, hey, we're going to release, these 3 new characters. Which one do you want to see first, right? Building the business is still up to us and the core team, not the community, but the community will have some say in maybe like storyline progression or up-and-coming events, or maybe even bringing back some events that we had in the past, like the live ops opportunities. We're going to have tournaments where in order to enter the tournament, you have to use WAGMI Games token. We're going to have eventually skill-based wagering battles where you'll be able to use ETH, USDC, or WAGMI Games token. Winner takes all. And then some other ideas we're playing with. This is actually something that we recently saw in Big Time, which I thought was an amazing idea because we're doing it too, is let's say you want to jump into a battle and you want to start leveling up your cards and you need specific cards. Let's say you're trying to get rares and you want a chest that only gives you rares. Well, we can say, hey, if you use X amount of WAGMI token when you enter this battle, you'll get a chest that'll give you rare cards. so that you can add to that and try to burn those and create an epic. And then the same thing to try to create a legendary. So by taking the token and incorporating it into the game in a way where it makes sense and it's gamified, that's seamless integration right there. Yeah. Battle passes too, right? Hey, you want to buy the battle pass? It costs X WAGMI Games token, but you'll just double click your phone and all that transacting will happen in the back end.
Yeah, it's taking a system that currently exists and just augmenting it a bit by having the blockchain componentability, the interoperability, we'll say, obviously, right? The ownership. So let's talk about, final question here, what's next? I think you have packs revealing next week on Immutable, though by the time this airs, it may have just happened. So talk to us a little bit about that. What are you excited about?
Yeah, so we're going to start revealing the packs, the founders packs. So we did something really cool. We partnered with OpenSea to create our Founders Edition cards. And so these are packs that contain all 32 in-game characters. And it's the first time the new designs of our 12 heroes, our 6 aliens and 6 humans, are going to be in the game. And those and that's what we did in collaboration with GadgetBot. And so every single pack contains all 32 cards, and you're guaranteed a minimum of 2 legendaries, and then the others will be epics and rares. There's no common variants for the Founders Edition. Some people might get 10 legendaries, some people might get all 32. You won't know until you open the pack. So we really wanted to bring back that nostalgia of going to the comic book store, getting a pack of cards, opening it, and seeing what's inside. Are you going to get all commons? Are you going to get a shiny? Are you going to get a hologram? Are you going to get a clear, right? And just like the comic book store pack, when you open the pack and throw it away, on OpenSea, it's going to deflate. The collection's going to deflate. So right now, there's 3,000 packs on OpenSea. As soon as one gets opened, now it's 2,999. And you're going to see that collection continue to go down. And it's going to be interesting to see how many get left, because there will be speculators that want to hold on to an unopened pack, because maybe that unopened pack is going to be worth more in the future, right? Maybe once all the packs are open, there's a calculation done, and it's like, hey, there's still 3 packs left that have all 32 legendaries, and there's 200 unopened packs on OpenSea. Are you going to be able to resist the urge to open yours, or are you going to hold on to it, right? And then once the pack is opened, all of those 32 cards get dropped into the game on Immutable's L2, and then you're going to start to see something really cool happen. You're going to see people buying, selling, and trading, trying to create as many legendary variants as possible. And like Ian was saying earlier, it's the attachment to the characters that we're building out with our lore, with our comic books. We're actually working on an anime treatment right now, which we can talk a little bit more about too. I'll let Ian jump on that. But, you know, you might be playing the game and maybe you don't care to have all legendaries. Maybe you want to have a legendary, a rare, and an epic of specific characters because those characters are your favorite. You don't care about the rest. So now people might be holding on to epics and rares that you might need to burn to create a legendary. So like that's going to make the market, the secondary market, go crazy. You just like, you don't know what's going to happen, but people are going to be excited and get that nostalgic feeling of opening their packs very soon. Well, by the time this airs, it's already going to be happening. So you guys,
that secondary market will be doing its thing. The gamification will be afoot.
I mean, we already have people with the free to play cards. Sorry to cut you off. So we just saw a free to play legendary human emperor sell for $85, and that's one card. And again, you could get it yourself just from grinding, but someone's like, nah, I'll just pay $85. I don't want to grind for it. That's
which is especially cool when you consider, you're not getting a huge gameplay advantage from it. It's truly just the attachment to the art, the attachment to the character, the speculation, the thinking that things may go up. So very interesting. Ian, do you want to say a moment about the anime? Scott teed you up there. I don't know if you want to say anything on it before we wrap here.
Well, what I will say is the anime has a lot of different reasons why we're doing it. Number one, user acquisition. Number two, it's going to be the very first time that anybody can actually see the backstory of one of our characters in real life, so that, for almost 2 years now, we're telling people about what we're doing, right? We're telling people about the lore and the story. And it's another thing to say, okay, now you can see it in action. So the anime is our real first opportunity for us to say, this is the quality that you can expect from this franchise. In fact, what we're also doing with the anime, it's going to be a 45-second treatment, having to do almost with a unique music video that we're doing. It's a rap song, but that's going to be based off of the backstory of one of our characters. We will release that probably sometime in February or March. And what's going to be cool about that is we're also, as we mentioned before, working with writers. There's a gentleman that has worked with Stan Lee from Marvel that's helping us flush out the universe and coming up with a full-blown series and synopsis per series for us to be shopping to some of the streamers like Netflix. So we have all of these different ways that we want to be able to get our universe out, and all roads will lead obviously to our first game, which is WAGMI Defense. But again, we're just, we feel that the more we're able to lead with the lore, the more we're able to just extract this really unique universe that Lewis has been able to create. And all of, and by the way, Scott is a genius when it comes to just coming up with all the different history of anime and collectabilities. But, our entire team has just come together to create something that's really, we feel is very special. And that anime is part of like kind of the very first coming out party for us to show people this is what we've been talking about for the last couple of years.
I love it. Scott, Ian, thank you so much for being here, sharing a little bit more about WAGMI Defense with us. I'm excited to see those pack reveals, see what comes out of that, watch the craziness that unfurls afterwards, and just really appreciate y'all sharing your story here.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Being here.
Nice to meet you.
And next up, we have a final thought from Robbie. Robbie, let's talk a little bit more about strategic partnerships. You have the Ubisoft announcement that just came out. You've also been tweeting about the fact that you onboarded 9 new games in a single day, which was a record for Immutable. What do you feel like that says about the landscape, and how are you feeling about these strategic partnerships that you've got going on?
Yeah, so I mean, we've had basically now the best 8 months of go-to-market and market share in the company's history. We're on the precipice of launching ZKVM. I talked to a lot of people from the VC landscape all the time. I think the consensus building is Immutable is the default home now for gaming. And if people want to get exposure, that is how the best way to get exposure to this Web3 gaming thesis is. What I'm most interested in now in transitioning for the company, not just on individual games, but how can we help bridge partnerships to reduce the fragmentation of this landscape of offering for games? And that means, how do we partner with other people building platforms, marketplaces, primary sales solutions, publishing solutions, who in different markets, there'd be a ton of competition here. Everyone would be able to raise large amounts of money to build the entire stack themselves, and just to cause more churn, more friction, and not much value to be added. I think we're now in a place where people are working out, this is the layer of the stack that I want to properly own. This is where I want to truly add value to people. And we're seeing a huge opportunity to basically embrace these people, give them access to the hundreds of games building on Immutable, to reduce competition and costs, and to make it much simpler for developers to choose where to build. But I think it's fundamentally necessary for the industry. I think there are there's the most platforms out there, because that was a very investable VC thesis. Because VCs are more comfortable investing in broader bets, platforms, or funds than they are investing in individual games, because the risk associated with them. And I think we're now seeing the opportunity to bring all of these people into Immutable and to help make them massively successful with things like enforceable royalties, or things like the marketplace fees, or things like gas free for gamers, or better conversion, where they can have a much better business by sort of joining hands. So stay tuned, we'll be announcing some of these over the next 3, 4, 5 months. I think they'll be some of the most significant things that we announced, and they're not going to be, bull market narrative partnerships. These are genuine things where we're working with people to build businesses. I'm very excited for what this will do for the space in terms of just simplifying developer choice. So that's what I wanted to touch on. I think it's not just games we're looking at now, it's things that are much bigger, and the next 6 or 12 months I think will be a very interesting time as sort of we help to unify the space considerably.
All right, folks, that is our show. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this, please do like, subscribe, comment. We love seeing the comments, and we will catch you next time.